standards have to be available a long, long time ago. So Samsung invests in LTE standard many, many years ago. In addition, we also make investments into the chipset development of both the base stations and the network. And after that point, network has to be available, as well as devices and applications. The whole ecosystem, end-to-end solutions would have to be available for LTE to be ready for time to market in market. So Samsung actually, a couple days ago, announced our first LTE smartphone device. It's called Indulge, and it would be available today in the market.
I would say, if you look at LTE, the overwhelming majority of all LTE deployments are data-only overlay network kinds of deployments in new spectrum. Those networks will coexist with 3G and legacy networks for some time to come. So fundamentally what you have as we look at it is you have new spectrum that's there for wide bandwidth, high speed data connectivity. And it occurred to us at least that, gee, that sounds an awful lot like Wi-Fi did, say 5 to 7 years ago. And what did the Wi-Fi industry do right to help OEMs, device manufacturers get devices out faster? They did things like modularizing the hardware solution and hardening the software, all of the drivers and the firmware, and making sure it was interoperable and robust with all the equipment out there. And we're just applying kind of the same lessons learned there, and we're applying that to 4G by taking a modular, simple, small, low-cost, small form factor 4G processor approach and doing all of those things around it to make it as turnkey as humanly possible. Let me start with the cost, the additional cost of an LTE broadband, 4G processor or chipset. There's two factors. One is, these things are processing more bits per second, wider channels, more advanced MIMO processing and coding schemes. So they're doing more processing. So you have to provide for greater processing horsepower in these modems. The second thing Andrew already alluded to is the frequency configurations. The number of bands that have to be supported in an LTE or that want to be supported depending on the particular device or operator configuration is, you can have up to a dozen bands, LTE only bands, in addition to the legacy bands, and every band has the potential to add additional cost at the RF front end design in terms of filtering and antennas and duplexers and so forth. So there's two at the kind of core hardware level, two major drivers that LTE adds some cost.
I guess the other key point is that in the early days, it's quite critical that you have to have a good user experience in either mobile or portable applications. You need to have the fallback. So these are not LTE devices that we're launching. These are LTE in addition to 3G and in some cases 2G. So, we're adding an LTE overlay onto the device, so, we're not getting rid of anything that we have in current products. We're just adding on, and that adds on. You mentioned, processor cost, RF components, antennas get a little bit more complicated. And, even things like intellectual property royalties start to add up. The old ones don't go away. We're just adding some more on top. So the costs do.
I think that we all know what the value proposition of 4G is for end users. The way that it opens up the applications and the use cases and so forth of the mobile internet, we all know what the value there is. So, I think the charge to the industry is just do it. Just go build these things. I mean, the technology is ready. The networks are starting to deploy, and the sooner we all do it, the smarter we get at it, the faster the costs come down, the more elegant the designs become, and the faster we mature this stuff. So it's there for the taking, so let's go.